Hey everyone, welcome back to PokeMarketLab. We are looking at Scarlet and Violet base set today, getting a bit of a market update. This was the intro to the Scarlet and Violet era, and it came out with very little fanfare back in March of 2023 here, so it's been over a year. And at this time, if you don't know already, everyone's focus was still very much on the Sword and Shield era. Things were hiking up quickly in the Sword and Shield era. And there was some attention on Scarlet and Violet, but the base set just really didn't have enough oomph in it to really take everyone's attention away. And it's really struggled since. I was picking these up on TikTok for I think as low as $70 a box, not that long ago. You can still find them for $100 a box, or under $100 a box, just about any day of the week. And you can see here, this chart's misleading because the return of 37% in a year is based on its lows of under $80 a box at one point briefly there. And it's topping out at 110, and it's as far as base, it is a base set. So we're going to compare it here. We're going to look at some values here compared to Sword and Shield base set, but it just wasn't enough to really pull anyone's attention from the previous era, and it has stagnated. It's really just not done much. The chart's just very misleading in that regard. And we'll kind of dive into some of this data here. But yeah, it really came out with very little fanfare and there's just nothing special to it. There's no chase in there, and we need chase to open boxes. So still over 400 of these listed on TCG Player. This year we've only sold 2,000 boxes of this. Considering the price is really low, that's extremely surprising, right? When we see boxes sit around that $100 price point, especially, compared to other sets in Scarlet and Violet being over 120, 130, all the way up to $200 now, this would seem like a relative deal compared to those. And we still have not seen a ton of movement. Just look here in the last year. So again, up 37%, but that's off of a low of under $80, right? So I think it's starting to get some attention, but I don't think it's for the right reasons. I don't think it's because it has fantastic cards. So we can see here some other values of total cards and sets for other base sets here. So what we're seeing in Scarlet and Violet isn't odd. It's very common to have just a very generic set of cards in a base set. I don't understand that. To me, this is like releasing your first album. Like you want it to be good. You want it to be impactful. Maybe there's a calculus there. I would think there is, given, look at how close that distribution of value is compared to these other base sets. It's almost like it's done on purpose. Maybe it's to not cannibalize on that previous set, given the timing. There's no gap there. It's not like, hey, you end Sword and Shield and it's 6 months before a new set comes out, right? It's a couple months, right? So if you may be cannibalizing, if you had a really banger of a base set, you might cannibalize your sales that you're trying to flush out of that previous era. Maybe that's part of their decision. We'll never know. But it's very interesting that all these total value of cards and sets is all within $40, $60 compared to these three eras here. It's kind of crazy. And taking a look at the cards, the top 10 cards of value in the set. And again, it's just, there's a little bit of an inkling of the type of art that we were going to see in Scarlet and Violet. We can see that here. You can see this is very cutesy. It's more scene based. It's not as focused on the Pokemon itself, but there's too much of that. We don't have that one Pokemon, that one chase that's just an awesome card. You need that. And we didn't have it. Look at the top card in the set, $30. So even if you spent $80 on a box, you have to pull the top card to even have a chance at approaching any kind of value out of that box that you opened. So it's just, there's nothing special to chase after here. There isn't. I'm not saying the art's terrible. It's not. There's some. I have this Drowsy that's beautiful in person here. There's some cards here, but it's just nothing of value. We are going to look at some of the values here, specific cards. They are starting to run up a little bit, and again, I think that's because they're cheap. I think it's because Scarlet and Violet as a whole is seen as a darling of an era now, and so this being a cheap box, this having cheap singles, I think people are just saying, "Oh, this is a cheap box. These are cheap singles. Let me pick these up because I'm getting priced out of other sets within the Scarlet and Violet era." Now let's look at kind of visualize this price distribution here. And again, our top card is $30, and it drops off very steeply here. There's very little of financial value. That's not the only thing you look for, you know, as a collector. You're looking for cards, you're looking for specialty art, but typically the price that we see in the market is representation of the demand for that type of art, right? And suffice to say, we're just not seeing it here. It's improving though, but is it improving again because people just missed it the first time around and it's actually really good stuff and they're focusing on it now and picking it up? Or is, again, because it just has the Scarlet and Violet name, it's cheap, so it's bringing that kind of inorganic demand, maybe more, you know, investor type people that are just like, hey, let me get anything I can get my hands on, versus again, almost anything else in the Scarlet and Violet era. Paradox Rift, Temporal Forces, Twilight Masquerade, Surging Sparks, they all blow this out of the water, even though they're more expensive. I would rather pick up Paradox Rift at $110 a box any day of the week versus Scarlet and Violet base. Now, this will move up over time. It will increase in value, as we've seen with every base set. But again, part of my plan and my checklist, so to speak, when I'm purchasing a set is not just, hey, it's cheap. It's, okay, do I like the underlying product? Does it make sense to me? Do people like it? If I like it, there's a good chance other people will like it, right? And so the fact that this is just being noticed now, I think it's inorganic. Top value cards and set, top three here. We get the Gardevoir, the Miriam, and the Ralts. We've seen some good run-ups here. Gardevoir's increased 14% in the last 3 months, and the Ralts has increased 37% in the last 3 months. But again, is that because they're awesome cards? They're okay. I mean, they're cute scene cards, but there's nothing that's just blowing me away. I actually like that Miriam out of all the three here listed on the screen. I don't have any of these three. They're okay, but we're definitely starting to see a little bit of volume there, especially on that Ralts. Start moving up. But again, is it because of the art? Is it because they're cheap cards? I don't know. And taking a look at the next three, we get the Miradon. I think that's a pretty decent looking card. Drowsy I have in person. This picture doesn't do it justice. It's a really pretty card in person. And we're seeing some run-ups here. Drowsy's gone up nicely, and the Kirilla is gone up a little bit, actually pretty flat there, but the volume's starting to increase. So again, just kind of run-of-the-mill, nothing crazy here. This is not enough chase, and that's extremely important for two reasons. Number one, obviously, a chase card is typically going to be a more expensive card, and that's going to, it's going to kind of raise that water level of the value of cards in a set, which is important, okay? Number two, that depletes boxes. That, from a long-term investment standpoint, we're going to do a separate video on this, is more important than anything. The fact that we don't have that chase card, I can almost guarantee you that means there's not a lot of people cracking this set and opening it for singles chase. What's there to chase? There's nothing to chase. Why would you 100% any day of the week just pick up singles to get what you need for this set? There's just nothing fun about it. I have not cracked anything for this set. There's just nothing there for me to crack. There's nothing there for me to chase. And I think that's from a sealed event. That means there's a lot more sealed boxes. There's a lot less people cracking boxes. Let's put it this way. Taking any data out of the equation whatsoever, right? Which box would you crack if you could just get any box you wanted out of Surging Sparks, out of Scarlet and Violet era? Would it be a Surging Sparks box, or would it be this? Which one would you choose? Any day of the week, you're going to open Surging Sparks. You have the Pikachu EX SIR. There's plenty, dozens of other cards that you would love to open from Surging Sparks. Okay, Surging Sparks will be open tremendously more than Scarlet and Violet base, which depletes the number of sealed boxes in anyone's inventory, which if you're a sealed collector and investor, that's a good thing. Long term, that's an excellent thing. Okay. I can almost guarantee you we don't have that here. I don't have any data necessarily to show that. But I think that's a fair inference that we can make based on what we see with other sets. So the long and short of it, I think your money is better spent elsewhere. I think a Temporal Forces or Paradox Rift at this point makes a ton more sense, even if you're paying a little bit more for those, an extra $10, $20. I think those are much better sets long term, much better. I own some Scarlet and Violet base. Again, I've gobbled a bunch of them up extremely cheap. I am not touching this over $100 a box. I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm not saying it won't go up. It absolutely will. But I'm not paying. Yeah, I'm not. I just think there's other choices, right? We're not buying this box without context of other boxes in the set. There are other boxes and there are other, sets in the era they have way better singles. They're much more fun to open. And those are all things that contribute to the calculus of what we buy. One of my fundamental rules is I buy what I like. Would I love cracking this open should all this go to zero? Is there stuff in there that I'd love to crack open with my family and chase after? And that's not the case here. And if I don't like it, I don't have confidence that other people are gonna love it. I don't think people are buying this to crack. I just don't. So and again, it's not a knock on base sets in general. They're all kind of like that. And I do think there's a little bit of decision there and purposefulness on the Pokemon Company's part regarding how they do base sets and not cannibalizing their previous era. So let me know what you think. If you find this information helpful or enjoyable, please comment, like, or subscribe. We really appreciate it, and we will see you on the next one.